Today I'm joined by Fabio Comana, one of our exercise physiologists who helped develop the ACE Kickstart Guide to a Healthier New Year. The exercises we're going to demonstrate can be adapted to all fitness levels and are designed to strengthen the core and also improve stability and mobility in the hips. Let's get started.
We're now going to show you 5 simple exercises that you can do at home to help you condition your core. Now, for more detail on each of these exercises, please visit the ACE Exercise Library. The first exercise Jessica is going to demonstrate for us is called the bird dog. So you notice Jessica's in a kneeling position. She's just going to transition forward onto all fours. And you notice she's placing her hands directly under her shoulders. Her elbows are nice and locked. And she's got her knees directly under her hips. Her spine is nice and flat, and she's going to keep that through the exercise. Notice her head position. It's also, her head is looking down towards the floor, keeping that nice straight line sort of along the body. Now, one thing I'd recommend you do is to do this next to a mirror so you can watch your own technique. Now, simply what we're going to do this exercise, I'm going to ask Jessica to extend her one leg out behind her, and at the same time she's going to extend the opposite arm out in front of her body. So you notice she's doing that, and we've got the opposite sides of the body going here. Jessica's going to hold this for about 2 to 3 seconds, and she's going to return to her starting position, and she's going to repeat to the opposite side. So we notice we're going the opposite arm and leg. The idea here is to really put some stress into this area and really condition these muscles. Now, things you need to focus on is as you're doing this motion, it's more important to control these muscles, to really squeeze your abdominal muscles or your tummy muscles and try and keep this back as flat as possible. If you notice a bit of an arching occurring between the starting position and when you get out into that fully extended position, then try and fire these muscles a little harder or don't extend out as high. But the idea is just to do a series of repetitions using the opposite sides there, trying to get nice and parallel, and then try and keep your hips nice and level and your shoulders nice and level together too. The second exercise we're going to show you is called the Glute Bridge, or sometimes called the shoulder bridge exercise. Again, another great exercise to really condition your muscles around the mid-region or your core, but it gives you an added benefit of really helping condition those muscles of your butt. Now, we do this one lying on our back. You notice Jessica's lying on her back, her arms are slightly out to the sides. It's going to give her a little stability. Bent knee position, and all we're going to ask Jessica to do is to contract her abdominal muscles to really stabilize that part of her body and to really just lift her hips, push her hips off the ground. Now, she's doing a few reps. We're going to hold it for 2 to 3 seconds, come right back down, and just do a series of repetitions. Now, one thing I want to encourage you to avoid doing is the idea of this exercise is not to try and push your hips up as high as you can, because if you do, that puts a lot of stress on the low back area. We want to avoid that. So the idea is to really keep these muscles engaged through here so that it flattens out your back, and just push your hips up. Hold that position, come on down. Now we have a good progression of this exercise. What Jessica can now do is simply bring one knee towards her chest, and now she's going to lift off of one leg. So Jessica's going to come up, she's going to hold that for a few seconds, come down, and she's going to alternate her legs over. Perfect, that's it, the glute bridge exercise. The next exercise we're going to do is called a plank. We're going to do 2 variations of the plank. We're going to do the front plank, and we're also going to do a side plank. Both great exercises to condition the core muscles. Now, Jessica's going to start off in the front plank position. Traditionally, we start in a kneeling position, we transition forward, and you notice Jessica's going to place her elbows on the mat. Palms can be, you can even have your hands with the palms down or the palms facing inward towards each other. Either way is fine. And then when you're ready in this situation, what Jessica's going to do is extend herself out. You notice she's going to extend her legs out. She's really going to be positioning herself on the balls of her feet there. The idea is to create a nice stiff platform here. So Jessica's going to hold this position for me just for a few seconds. Notice how her back is nice and flat, maintain the neutral curvature of her spine, and her head's in a neutral position. Okay, take a little breather for me, Jess. Now, traditionally when we do this exercise, we see a lot of sort of mistakes, and I'm going to show you 3 classic mistakes that are made that Jessica's going to illustrate, and we want to try and avoid those. So the first one will be, Jess, if you go back into this position, is bringing the head up way too high. So we want to always try and look forward to see what we're doing. That puts a lot of stress in the back of the neck, so we want to try and avoid that one. So let's try and keep that head down in neutral position. Just look down at your hands. Second one is we start to get tired, we start to sag right through here. We start to see the hips drop towards the floor. Again, if you're showing signs of fatigue, just end the exercise. Third one we start to see is people start to tire, and as a compensation, they start to throw the hips up into the air. Again, we're losing that plank position, and we're losing that engagement with these muscles. So if you start to experience any of these changes to your technique, it's just a sign of fatigue. Just stop the rep, take your appropriate rest interval, and continue the exercise. So let's just bring Jess back to a neutral position, and that's what we want to hold. And there's your forward plank. The next exercise I want you to try is called the side plank. Now you notice Jessica's in kind of a side lying position, so what we want you to do is just to kind of lie down, keep the knees bent to start with and try and get your knees, your hips, and your chest somewhat aligned. And the idea is to get your hips and your shoulders aligned vertically with the floor. Now Jessica's going to place her elbow directly under her shoulder. This is your starting position. Again, so what we're going to do here now is we're going to get Jessica to lift up nice and easily. And two things I want you to watch is, number one, we're engaging these muscles right here, so you're going to be very stiff through here. Now, what we need to do is to make sure that your head is kind of in line with the rest of your torso. So it's best to do this exercise in front of a mirror so you can watch your own technique. We want to try and get the hips level here. We don't want to push the hips up too high like that, or let the hips sag. We want a nice straight line. So imagine a broomstick or something running right through from your belly button through your chest all the way through your head. So Jessica, just drop your head a little bit more that way. There's a nice position there. Okay, go ahead and relax. So you'll just do a few of these repetitions, holding it up in the up position for a few seconds. Now, when you feel like this exercise is no longer challenging, we're going to progress you. The first progression I'm going to ask Jessica to do is to extend her legs out in front of her, and she's going to place what we call the feet in a heel to toe or a tandem position. You notice Jessica's got both feet on the floor. The inside of this foot is touching, the outside of that foot is touching. Same mechanics apply here. When Jessica's ready, she's going to stiffen up through here and she's going to lift her hips off the ground. She's going to drop her head down just a little bit, and we've got a nice straight line through the belly button, the chest, and right through her head there. Hold this position right there. Try and avoid that sagging or that hiking. Now, if you think that this is no longer challenging, you want to go one step further, what we're going to ask Jessica to do now is to place both feet on top of each other. So now she's only got the outside of her lower leg touching the floor. In this position, we've narrowed her support system, so it's going to be a little more challenging on the core muscles. Same thing again, when Jessica's ready, she's going to push up. Nice clearance, there's nothing touching under here. Nice straight line, and she's just going to hold this position for a while. And again, when you start to show see the hips sagging or hiking up, that indicates that you're probably getting tired. You need to just end the exercise, take a rest, and then repeat your next set. The last exercise we're going to demonstrate is the crunch, probably the most popular exercise that you can do at home or you'll see people doing in the health club environment. We simply need you to lie down on your back as Jessica is doing. She's in a bent knee position, and we certainly want to keep this position throughout the exercise to help support the low back. Now, there's several arm positions that you can utilize in this exercise. I'm going to demonstrate the traditional position, and then we can show you some variations. So Jessica, if you can go ahead and just place your arms lightly behind your head. Now you notice Jessica is not going to interlock her fingers, because if she does that, it's going to create the tendency of her to pull her head forward during the exercise, putting a lot of stress into the neck. We don't want that to happen. In fact, she's going to lightly place her fingers right here behind her ears, all right? And she's also going to try and keep her elbows flared out throughout the movement. Now, all we want Jessica to do here is when she's ready, she's going to exhale and just engage her ab muscles or abdominal muscles and simply curl herself up to a point where her shoulder blades come off. And she's going to curl up and down. She's following about a 2-second up count and a 2-second down count. She exhales as she comes up, and she inhales as she's going down. Now, you notice the movement is controlled in both directions. And you notice she's also keeping her head nice and still. We want to avoid that position of pulling the head forward. One cue that you can use for yourself is to pick a point right up on the ceiling and just try and fix your eyes on that, and that'll help stabilize your head. Now, if you find this position too challenging, let's show you some variations. First, I'm going to have you do, Jessica, is just place your hands, the backs of your hands on the front side of your head. This will take away the tendency of you to sort of pulling your head forward. It also facilitates or makes the exercise a little easier for you to do. It also might help you keep the head back, which is a good idea. Next position, if you find that still too challenging, I'm going to ask Jessica to just cross her arms across the front of her chest. And again, curling up on a 2-second count, going back down on a 2-second count, keeping her head nice and still. And the last position, again, if this is too difficult for you, Jessica, go ahead and place your hands on the front of your thighs. And all Jessica's going to do is, as she curls up, she's going to slide her hands up her thigh and just slide them back down. Notice the movement is the same throughout. She's engaging the muscles, bringing her ribs to her hips, and she's lifting her shoulder blades off the mat and keeping her head in a nice sort of neutral position throughout the exercise. There's your crunch.
Be sure to subscribe to our free Healthy Tips email newsletter for the next installment of the workout guide, which will be coming out in February. We'll see you next time.